Half duplex homes see yet another increase, going all the way up to almost $630,000 for the benchmark price. Wasn't sure if we're going to see a little bit of stabilization, considering last month we saw a decrease, but now we've surpassed that decrease and actually increased to a new level not seen in Calgary. So let's go check it out. Hello, my name is Adam Fyfe, your Calgary real estate agent. If you're looking at making a game plan and you want to step into this real estate market, it is competitive, it is hectic. Both buyers, sellers, and investors all need to be very cautious on how they proceed. Sellers have it the easiest right now. It can be very stressful with the amount of people looking at your property. Investors, is very tricky to find good investment properties. And buyers, I just feel bad for you buyers. It is pretty crazy out there. So if you want to create a game plan, you want to talk about this in a lot more detail, go ahead, book the call with me. The Zoom link is in the description. So semi-detached properties have reached $628,700, probably going to hit $630,000 by the end of the year, up about 13% from last year, which is $70,000 or $7,500 increase just from last month alone. Now, when you see this benchmark price of $628,000, you want to know what is the attributes that you would get. So 4 bedrooms, 3 up, 1 down. You can see it's built in 2005, and it's about 1,200 square foot. That is a very fast overview, but when you are looking at the benchmark price, it's very important to ask what are the attributes that you get with that, with that benchmark price, because it changes from quadrant to quadrant and even community to community. So let's start this off. Just like normal, we're going to read the Calgary Real Estate Board's description of what's going on here, talk about it, move forward. New listings in October improved over the low levels reported last year. However, with 235 new listings and 179 sales, the sales to new listing ratio remained relatively high at 76%, preventing any significant changes in the inventory levels. Inventory levels are nearly half the levels traditionally seen in October and have not been this low since October 2005. They wrote the same thing about townhouses here in Calgary, so very tight conditions for semi-detached homes in Calgary. Persistently tight conditions have continued to support price growth. In October, the unadjusted benchmark price increased over last month, reaching $628,700, a year-over-year gain of 13%. Prices trended up over September across most districts, with the most significant monthly gain occurring in the city center district. So I wonder what's going on there. Like the detached sector, year-to-date, the highest price growth has happened in the most affordable districts of Northeast and East Calgary, which is very common all across the board. So a lot of stuff to unpack here. Now, obviously, the benchmark prices continue to increase with these persistently low levels. It is very, very tight market out there. You can see that the sales in the inventory has stayed relatively the same from last month. I would argue that they're probably going to stay about that. If not, the gap's actually going to get larger between the sales and inventory as we go into winter, which is going to basically stabilize the price point, my prediction. Moving forward here, we'll touch on that again in a bit. This is the year-to-date stats package. Very interesting stuff here. Sales have dropped, new listings have dropped, but inventory has also dropped. We are going into the winter months. Clearly, the inventory fell, indicating that it's still somewhat of a hot market, but seeing both those numbers, sales and new listings drop, indicates winter. So days on market has stayed relatively flat since August, still 25 days, similar to what we were seeing at the beginning of the year in April and May. The benchmark price has increased, the median price has decreased, as well as the average price increasing. I get a lot of questions about what's kind of the difference there. The median and average price are straight numerical, right? So the average price point is just the average. You take all of the sales, you get the average. What was the average that people were paying? Was it more expensive or less expensive? The median price is kind of the same thing. It's basically right in the middle. You got the lowest sale, the highest sale, what was in the middle. And then you've got the benchmark price, which is actually tied to attributes. So you actually have like the 4-bed, the built in 2012, the 1,600 square foot. Like you actually have attributes attached to that benchmark, which makes benchmark price the most important price point to be following. You can kind of follow trends with median and average, but they fluctuate quite a bit. So you kind of have to look at it at a larger scale, where benchmark price you can just watch every single month. So months of supply in the inventory section is definitely dropping. Very common across the whole board. Calgary is a very, very hot market. This is the months of supply broken down into individual quadrants. Now you can see that the city center has 3 months of supply, which is the most supply out of all property types in all districts. 3 months is considered to be a balanced market. You would think that being in a balanced market, supply and demand is fairly balanced out, that there shouldn't be that much price increase. But on future slides, you'll notice that the city center actually saw a massive price increase. So it's very interesting that you can't just look at one stat and try to paint a picture. You have to bring the whole thing together. You can see that everything else besides a couple there in the west as well as the east are below a month and a half, hovering around that 1 month mark. Now, this is quite interesting. This is the benchmark price for October. You can see it's just a very quick chart for semi-detached. You can see that the city center is actually very close to West Calgary. Now, clearly the attributes are going to be very different, right? The city center, you're going to get an older home, smaller, for less money, right? Where the semi-detached, it might have the same benchmark price, but it's going to be a lot newer and bigger, right? Pretty common knowledge there in a way. But it's very, very interesting to say the least, because when you start to look at these price points, you say, okay, well, City West and then Northwest, they're all very different price points, but they also have very different attributes. So if you want something specific or particular, you want a newer property and the biggest possible or whatever, the most luxurious, then you need to kind of fit yourself into which quadrant, or have the best expectation for which quadrant would be the most accurate fit for you and your expectations. So, tongue twister to say the least. Where does that kind of lead off? Now, every single quadrant has a different attribute tied to it. So on this chart here, you can see that south and southeast are neck and neck. You can see that they're very similar in price point. But when you actually go over here and you look at south and southeast, you can see that southeast was built in 2010, where south was built in 1989. You can see that southeast was just under 1,200 square foot, where south is just over 1,200 square foot. So if you're looking for a newer property, maybe you want to stick more, in the southeast for the same price, where if you're okay with a little bit older, maybe a little bit closer to city center, then you would go with a little bit of an older, smaller property in a way in south. So lots to digest, lots to consume when you're looking at these benchmark prices, but it's very important that you know ahead of time before you get into the market. So this is a quick chart here just to showcase the year-over-year price growth. This is good for your sellers out there or your homeowners. You can see that everything has basically seen increases. You can see that northeast and east, just like every other property type, has seen the biggest increases, where everything else is kind of hovering around that 10 to about 13% year over year. Now, if you are curious and you want to know what's going on with your equity, go ahead and put it in this software here. It is an AI software that spits out instantaneous home evaluations. It's very slick and it's very useful. If you're just curious and you want to know what's going on, go ahead and put it in. I'll probably still reach out to you, say hello, and thank you very much for using the website. Set you up on stuff if needed. But at the end of the day, if you're just curious, you're just curious. So, it's all good. It is a very hot market out there. There's a lot of people who are just curious of what's going on with their home prices. This is a very quick, easy, painless way of doing that. So moving along, let's go and look at the microeconomic breakdown here. You can see that the sales, the new listings, the sales to new listing ratios, which are very interesting because you can see that the northeast, north, and northwest all saw over 100%. Now, I do want to point out that these numbers are quite small when you compare to other property types like semi-detached and condos. Like 26 sales and 23 new listings in the whole quadrant of northeast is pretty small, right? This is a very large quadrant, and to only have these smaller numbers, these percentages fluctuate pretty greatly. An example here would be City Center, that had 44 sales with 81 new listings. It only had 50% of the sales to new listing ratio, but when you jump all the way to the other side, you can see it's a 2.18% increase from last month, meaning that a lot of people probably went into multiple offer situations and really just drove that price up. A couple really good listings came on the market and they just had to be a little bit more competitive driving that price up. That would be my assumption. So kind of going backwards a little bit, this is the inventory. This is the months of supply, which is indicator of how fast the market's moving. Anything under 1 month of supply is a very hot seller's market. You can see that you've got some that are floating around the 1.1, 1.2 area. The benchmark price, again, you want to relay your attributes on that. Your year-over-year percentages, which are all in double digits, crazy to see. And then your month-over-month increases. Now, everything increased besides the southeast. Just like some other property types, southeast saw some sort of decrease over the last month for whatever reason. I'm not personally active fully in the southeast, but it is very, very interesting to say the least. So interestingly enough, you can see that the month prior actually saw an increase of $1,300, where this month they actually saw a decrease of $2,000. So they've kind of just lost all of the increases that they saw from the month prior, which is very, very interesting. Now, a lot of people are probably wondering, why am I brushing over City Center? They saw an $18,000 increase. They saw a $3,500 decrease from last month, but $18,000 increase in 1 month is very aggressive, especially when the price point is $873,000. I knew townhouses were hot, but they seem to be moving pretty quickly in a way in the city center, where a lot of the good product is being scooped up and they're actually getting a little bit more, or they're definitely getting above market value. So if you're curious of why these prices have increased, the best way of doing it seriously is booking a call and we can go over the market together. look at the last 30 days, look at the listing to sold price percentages and ratios, and trying to figure out, okay, well, did this one sold for over, this one sold for over, this one sold for under, and like actually creating a game plan. The last thing you want to do is just get yourself locked up in the market, kind of running the races, looking at all these new listings without actually setting up your foundation, which I feel is super, super important. So with that being said, where's the market going to go, right? This is a chart here just kind of showcasing what's happened over the last 5-6 years. I can see some sort of stabilization going for the semi-detached market. If you look at the last 2 winters, they had small increases, basically going from September all the way to January, and then January, both 2022 and 2023, saw some pretty sharp increases. I don't see the sharp increases per se in this market, but I definitely see increases just based off of the demand. There's a lot of demand for affordable product, and semi-detached are positioned fairly well to be that affordable option. You know, there's a lot of good product between like 450 and 650, really good semi-detached homes. I can see that price increasing, which is going to pull up the benchmark price. So I hope you get a lot of value. I hope you get a lot from these videos. They're very interesting. They're fun to record. If you have any recommendations or suggestions, go ahead. Leave them in the comments below. I appreciate all the support. I really hope that you get some value from this video. I'm always down for recommendations on how to make these better. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.